incredible things about the Warner Brothers Studio Tour of London? Yes, welcome to the celebration of Harry Potter. My name is Scotty B. I'll be your host. Without any further ado, let's get things started right now. Check this out.
My name is Dudman. I was the creature effects supervisor for all 8 of the Harry Potter movies. There's lots of different effects departments. We produce, if you like, organic effects. So if we have to build a creature that's actually on set, if we have to physically change an actor so he looks like the character in the book, then we do that. We produce all the goblins from Gringotts Bank. We've got to build a fire-breathing dragon. We created people like Mad Eye Moody. We sort of sawed off Voldemort's nose. We built Aragog the giant spider. Anything that involves sculpting, molding, and changing animals or people in 3D for real on set, and that's us.
Ladies and gentlemen, representing Warner Brothers Studio Tour of London, the making of Harry Potter, please welcome to the stage the creator effects supervisor of the Harry Potter films, Mr. Nick Dudman. See you soon. Let's do it.
Thank you very much. It is lovely to be here. Thank you for the English weather. No, really, thank you. I'm not here on my own. If I could, I'd like to bring a friend on.
All right, let's do that. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the actor who played both Professor Flitwick and Griphook, Ward Davis.
Fabulous to be here. You having a good time? Just a note, halfway through this panel, we're all going to stand up and do some warm-up exercises just to keep the blood flowing. It's rather chilly. So here we go. Welcome to this panel. Nick, now everyone knows who I am because I was in the films, but thank you very much. I'll pay you later. But I'm sure they're wondering who you are and what your role was in creating the Harry Potter films. Would you care to tell us?
Yeah, well, yes, if you don't know, the accounts department certainly didn't. My department was responsible for all the animatronic creatures that worked on set, all the prosthetic makeups that long-suffering actors like Warwick wore. If you're doing puppets or bits of people or things that operate in front of the camera as opposed to digital things which are put on afterwards, although a lot of our creature work was making models for eventually digital creatures. And, Warwick actually will remember, I am actually the reason that you're involved in Harry Potter.
You are indeed, absolutely. What your department did was, I think you created the real magic, the real sleight of hand in this film, and we're going to take you through some of the things Nick did. Because you create all sorts of things for the film. Tell us about some of your creations.
Well, originally I saw them over goblins, because there was talk of even back then doing digital goblins. But I did know, because I knew Warwick, because I'd known Warwick since he was 11, because I was one of the people who live cast him for a small movie called Return of the Jedi.
Most of my mother's horror, I will say. This live casting involves covering an actor in plaster, basically, goop. And I remember my mum, she was horrified that day when she saw that occur.
Yeah, I had to sort of talk her down gently. I told her it was called Teddy Bears from Outer Space, but But we started with the question of goblins, which meant Warwick came on board and a whole series of other little people came on board to do various goblin things, which was great. And that's really where it started. Then we did all sorts of other things. We did unicorns and bits of troll and all manner of stuff. But it grew.
Absolutely. Now, I expect you guys here would like to know how Nick would turn someone as good-looking and handsome as me into an ugly old goblin, something that looks a bit like this. And that's Griphook right there. start? What is the process?
The comment we always used to make when Warwick says things like that is, these are hands, not wands. You start with concept drawings, you start with ideas, because you've got to sell those to a producer or director. Then you take photos of the actor, you take the live cast, which gives you a plaster version of them, and you sculpt stuff. And for close-up work, we've made prosthetic makeups, which are multi-piece silicone gel pieces that are glued directly on the actor's face, head, body, wherever he needs help. And basically, that's what you do for close-up work. If you're doing background things, like we had loads of background goblins, you do pull on masks, anything that makes the job easier, because a makeup like Warwick's is a 4-hour job. So if you're on set at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you've taken breakfast into account, and the whinging is dragged out of his trailer, you just see the time tick back, and you're coming in very early indeed.
Absolutely. One of the background masks that you talk about is over there. So that would be slipped over an actor's head in the matter of a minute or two, and then be ready to go on set and film. Whereas what I was wearing was a prosthetic makeup, which took over 4 hours to apply. It took 3 people, your good self included, and then the finishing touches to that would be the very large 23mm contact lenses, and then the dentures, the teeth. And then the picture was complete, and it was very strange for me as an actor looking in the mirror and not seeing any of me looking back. Not even my eyes were looking back at me. A completely different character was before me, and it was a very, very kind of unnerving experience, but quite empowering as well, because it really allowed me to find a completely different character in Grimlock the Goblin. So, and it's actually quite tricky then to go and work in that, but Nick makes it as easy as possible. You know, he's obviously concerned with how the character looks, but at the same time he's thinking of me and whether I can actually perform and deliver a performance through this makeup. So he makes it very flexible, using silicone, which is the product that was used in this particular makeup. So every slight facial movement that I make will actually read through in the character space. So it allows me to give quite a subtle performance, quite a real performance.
Well, that is the idea. I mean, you're not creating a mask, you're actually just augmenting muscles, is really what the job is. And it has to be subtle and it has to be detailed. And at the end of the day, it's all to create an effect like this.
I wish to enter my vault.
Identification.
I hardly think that would be necessary.
Madam Strange.
Wow, there you go. That takes me back, actually, remembering those days filming. Although I spent most of the scene invisible. Now, I know how you create goblins firsthand, but what I really would love to know is how you go about creating the half-giant Hagrid. It's a mystery to me.
Well, Hagrid's played by Robbie Coltrane. However, despite what you might think, he's not 8 foot tall. So the question comes, how do you provide that on film? And the answer is, you obviously shoot everything you can close on Robbie. If he's in an enclosed set, like Hagrid's hut, you can actually make a smaller set, so we had 2 of them, and put him in the smaller one, put the kids in the bigger one. And that's all basic in front of camera trickery. What we added to that was the idea that if we could make a Robbie Coltrane double, who was nearly 8 feet tall, that would enable you to do all sorts of shots with the kids, where he's in the background, or he just set the scale for a scene, and then when you cut it closer, you're working on Robbie. And we came up with the idea. Chris Columbus said, okay, nervously, and then he said, I don't want to know how you do it. I'm not interested. I just want you to walk this character out with Robbie when you've done it, and we'll make a judgment. So there was no pressure. And we were very fortunate because we worked out the scaling just on pure practicality, because in the book, you read it, the guy is enormous. But if you then translate that into real terms, he can't fit through doors. He can't walk up steps. If the character's got feet that are 2.5 feet long, he's not going to be able to walk up steps or down them. So the geography of Hogwarts and wherever the character goes, he's got to be able to navigate. So that brought the scale down a little. And then we found an English rugby player called Martin Bayfield, 6'10", and not a skinny 6'10". He's a well-built 6'10", so he sort of fills a room when he comes in. And we basically built a Robbie Coltrane body to go over him with an animatronic head and made it as accurate as we possibly could. That gets you to a certain place. The next bit was the fact that by chance, Martin, who's a multi-capped England rugby player, that was his skill, happened to also turn out to be a very good actor and a mimic. And he could do a Robbie Coltrane wonderfully. So when we did walk them out, Robbie walked out in full Hagrid makeup to the producers and the director, and behind him came this enormous figure, just mimicking everything he did. And they bought it. And so, there are places where it's interesting that sometimes you just can't tell, because 6'10", he's on stilts, he's completely encased, and we've got a clip coming up now. Just watch the clip and see if you can guess who's who.
Make it better. It's low. Back off, Harry. Back off. Still. Well done, Harry. Well done. Yeah, thank you. You can go and pat him now. Oh, don't be shy. Slow. Not so fast, Harry. Let him come to you. Yes. Well done. Oh, well done, Harry. Well done. Let your right hand out. What? Come on. Hey. Over here. Hagrid. Join. Don't pull out any of his feathers. He won't thank you for that.
It's incredible, isn't it? Even when you know what you're looking for, it's very hard to see the two versions of Hagrid in that clip.
Well, that's the idea. You've got to be sure that it doesn't detract from the drama, from the characters and everything. If we do anything and you at any point go, well, that's cool, that's clever, I wonder how they did it, then we have failed. Because strangely, I don't want you to really notice my work or think about it, because what you should be thinking about is the story.
Absolutely. Now, as gamekeeper, Hagrid was very fond of his magical creatures. Of course, he teaches Harry how to bow to a hippogriff. Now, was bumping something that you and your team had a hand in?
We did. The hippogriff in the pumpkin patch, that was us, until it stands up. What we couldn't do was make a hippogriff that ran around and flew. That's kind of beyond what we could cope
Couldn't you
with.
have one bloke in the front and another one in the back?
It's a tried and trusted way of doing it, and don't think it wasn't talked about. But no, it was basically electronic, and we had a standing one, and as I say, a lying down one. But of course, you've got to get fur over the rear half, because it's a horse. The whole front half you're feathering. Every feather on these hippogriffs was individually hand cut, painted, and glued in to work like a feather, including the ones on the wings. You know, so that if the angle's even slightly wrong, it all just bunches up, and every time it moves, it goes crunchy. Whereas that's what took the time. It took months to do, but in the end, it worked. Our mechanical hippogriff could catch ferrets. It took a whole day. At the end of it, it caught 3, but it does mean I can say it caught ferrets. We also, I mean, Fawkes was the same. In the first few movies, Fawkes on his perch was an animatronic, and it was a complex one. It took about 10 people to operate it. But he was considered very real. Richard Harris, who was our first Dumbledore, did 2 days of filming with him, and then came over and said to one of the ADs, "It's amazing how they train these things, isn't it?" And I said to him, no, it's a puppet, you know. And I can't tell you what his reply was because there were children here. But it was fruity.
Well, it's confusing. I mean, I remember I used to go and spend some time in the Creature Effects workshop with Nick and his team in between filming while I wasn't actually working, but in full makeup. And tours used to come around, the visitors, and one of the highlights of the tour was to come and see the Creature Effects workshop and what Nick and his team were up to. And they were having a look at the hippogriff there, and it was bowing to them. And then his children, his particular celebrity's children, walked past me and said to one of Nick's team, "Make him do something." I did a song and dance number and totally freaked him out. As well as making lifelike creatures, Nick, you sometimes needed to make replicas of the actors themselves. So how do you explain this? There. So what is this here? Obviously it's Harry Potter, Daniel Radcliffe, but it looks slightly smaller than normal.
Well, that is a dummy of Daniel, but it's 82% of real life in scale.
Why is he 82%?
Because the difference between Robbie and Hagrid is 82%. So, for Robbie to carry Dan at the end of the Deathly Hallows, you had to have 2 Dan dummies. You had to have a smaller one for Robbie and a Dan-sized one for the large Hagrid, in case either of them had to carry him. Because obviously one actor carrying another is very difficult because actors are just as heavy as the rest of us. So you can make a lightweight version that can be carried, that's jointed and finished. But no, that's what it was for.
Brilliant. Can I have a look, Vanessa? Can I see the dummy? It's brilliant. So this is the moment when Voldemort went, "Harry Potter is dead! Bye!" It feels very realistic.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's all jointed, soft silicone.
It looks very peaceful there as well. And his fingers, you can sort of...
No, don't do that.
Thank you very much, Vanessa and Deb Harris. Brilliant.
Okay. Now,
surreal, isn't
you know,
it?
it's a real job, this. It's a real job. Now, before we go any further, I need to ask, are any of you scared of spiders?
Yeah. Well, not that many, actually, today. Not that many.
And have any of you visited the expo stand in Soundstage 33? Oh!
Excellent.
Excellent, so you've been following the spiders. Good.
Yeah, so most of you will know what Nick's on about. Now on Friday here at the celebration we made a very special announcement about a new extension to the Warner Brothers Studio Tour London, the making of Harry Potter, indeed the Forbidden Forest. It is very exciting. Yes, let's have a woo-woos for the audience. And Nick and his team have brought along a very special guest to help celebrate that, haven't you?
Yeah, well, we've been busy recreating a life-size moving Aragog for the new Forbidden Forest there. And in the meantime, we brought the old one over. So, if you've been over there, the one that's there is the original from the films.
Wow. Did you have any trouble at customs?
That's a very topical comment.
Well, so, I mean, it's huge. I remember actually seeing the Aragog when we were shooting, and I mean, it's massive. I mean, most spiders are massive to me anyway, but this one is really massive. And how do you go about making such a gigantic creature?
Well, I was going to say live casting, but no. No, first you sculpt the thing. So it's just like making a clay sculpt. You know, only it's a very, very big item, which is then molded in fiberglass or epoxy resin, and then cast out of in silicones and rubber and things like that, and then painted, and then we flock the outside, which is putting hair onto the surface electrically. Then we punch hair in, one hair at a time. Think about that. One set of eyebrows, one hair at a time sounds pretty kind of boring. An entire 18-foot spider, one hair at a time, is quite frankly mind-numbing, which is why the girls you met over there have that glazed look. You know, you probably thought it was drink because we're British, but no, minds have turned to soup.
Now in the film, Ron is famously scared of spiders. How did Dan and Rupert in real life react to Aragog, your creation?
Well, I was like, if you're doing something big like that, to actually introduce the actors to what you're going to do, because actually they have a lot of work to do interacting with something mechanical. Aragog did climb out of the hole, okay? And he's basically on one end of a massive seesaw with a massive counterweight. He's on a track, like a sort of rather angry small locomotive. And we have to get the legs out of the hole and then bring the body up behind it while the legs position themselves. At the bottom of the short slope, you've got Dan and Rupert. And to be honest, Rupert doesn't like spiders. So we were doing this, and they did freak out. Completely. They definitely freaked out because the movement is spider-like. It is creepy. We were freaking out because it was 2.5 tons, and it's on the top of a small slope over the talent.
Did you know you were scared of the spider or getting flattened by your machinery?
I'm not sure. I'd like to say the spider, but there could have been a certain bit of, concern. Now, shall we see what that looked like on film, just to remind ourselves?
Who is it? Hagrid, is that you?
We're friends of Hagrid's. You're Aragog, aren't you?
Yes. Hagrid has never sent men into a hollow before.
He's in trouble. Up at the school, there have been attacks. They think it's Hagrid. They think he opened the Chamber of Secrets.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So Nick, over on the table beside you, I've noticed we've got a few interesting artifacts. We'll just talk through those quickly. A mandrake there, you were involved in the making of the mandrakes.
Yes, I mean, a lot of people think they were digital, but actually every mandrake was a little animatronic with batteries inside it, so the kids could literally pull them out of the box and they would wriggle and scream. This is a dead one, so it's safe.
Safe, okay. Next we have a rather fed-up looking Dobby there. I mean, it's because he's missing his body. Look at him, he's like, oh, for goodness sake, so embarrassing. So embarrassing. You could have brought my body with you. Why do we have Dobby? Because in the film, most of the time we see him, he's computer generated.
Oh yes, he's a digital creature, but as I said at the beginning, very often you sculpt these things right through to a painted, fully haired, completed character, just to get the sign-off on the design, because it's so much easier for people to visualize something if they can walk around it, as opposed to seeing it on a screen. So a lot of it is done that way. And of course, once you've created it, it becomes invaluable when you're filming, because you can put the character into the scene, rehearse with it, the actors can get the hang of it, plus the lighting cameraman and all the visual effects people can actually take reference footage of how the light plays on the different surfaces of the character, as opposed to having to work it out. It's there for them. So you very often find yourself doing a huge body of work on movies like this. They'll never be seen, but you do end up with a lot of really, really cool things we've covered.
And they're vitally important as well in helping the realism of the whole thing, helping the actors with their performances and that sort of thing as well.
Absolutely.
Next Next we got the Book of Monsters there, which is fabulous. I didn't realise that actually you made one for real. Did it move?
Oh yeah, there were about 3 actually. One shot across the floor snapping, which was great because it was basically a radio-controlled car, you know, the bit. And that was great. And then there was one that you could hold, again the power supply is completely internal. And that would snap and all its tentacles writhed, his eyes popped out and looked around and everything, which was operated off camera by my crew with radio control, but you had to be able to hand it over to an actor, usually sort of going, now look, do be careful, this cost a lot of money, please concentrate. But yes, they were completely practical objects.
And last but not least, we've got some bits of my face over there. That was Professor Flitwick's makeup, if I'm not mistaken. We're missing the forehead there. But what a lot of people didn't realise is most of it is prosthetic. You know, it's only my own lips there and my sort of eye sockets were actually me. The rest of it was all fake.
Well, yes, I mean, partly because Warwick had appeared in the series as other characters, you know, because Warwick does tend to sort of multiply his roles once he's found where the casting office is, and, you know. One of the things was, okay, if we create another character, we've got to be sure that we just make sure there's no reference to him or to any previous characters. But again, it's a subtle thing prosthetic makeup, because he's got to act through it.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant, and I thank you for your creations that allowed me to play various different characters in the series in total. Now, all these things are real, they're all authentic. If you want to see more of this, and you have to be in London, do please go to the Warner Brothers studio tour, the making of Harry Potter. It's all there, it's a fabulous place. It's where it all happened, where Harry Potter was born all those years ago. Hello, strange man on the stage.
Hello.
We get security, please. Are we going to do some questions from our good people?
Yes, we're most certainly. Anybody out there interested in asking these 2 gentlemen some questions about their craft? All right, let's go. Let's first start down here with Jen. Jen, who do you have with you?
I have Liz, and she's from Salt Lake City. Liz, your question?
Hi, Liz.
Hi. So of the various forms of FX makeup that are out there, what's your favorite medium to work with for facial prosthetics and why?
That's a good one.
I think that's for me, isn't it?
I can answer it from an actor's perspective as well, but I'll let you go first.
All right, that's pretty kind of you. Thank you. Since the age of 11. Currently, the most useful material we work with is a silicone. It's a very, very soft material. It's encapsulated, which means it's basically a derivative of breast implant material. It's a gel that we put a skin on. Come on, this is a real job.
So have I had a boob on my face? Is that what's been going on?
Your private life's your own. Now,
I walked into that one. Carry on.
returning calmly to where we were, the reason we use these very, very soft gels is that we can put them effectively in a plastic sealed skin that has a dissolvable surface. So we have something that we can glue to the face that holds its shape, it doesn't deform, but is incredibly soft so the facial muscles can move it, and has edges that we can blur into the skin by dissolving them, and then hopefully make them up so that when we do, you can't tell what's fake and what's real. That's the idea. It used to be foam rubber. Everything was foam rubber, and I still like using foam rubber occasionally, but the translucency of silicone and the way it behaves is definitely, you know, a step up. And you've seen loads of movies now where there are some stunning on-page makeups and stunning sort of creature things done using silicones, which just wouldn't have existed 30 years ago.
That said, from an actor's perspective, I do quite like the silicone makeups, but they are quite heavy. Really, if you're wearing a full, like the grip hook makeup, it's a full front and back of head, it's sort of, you can really feel it in your neck muscles, because our neck muscles are designed to balance the head that we've always had. You add weight to that in different areas, it throws all of that fine balance off, and it's quite challenging to wear that. Another product that I've had stuck on my face as a makeup is the gelatin pieces as well. It's quite interesting.
Yeah.
It's the same stuff that Haribo makes sweets out of, right? So at the end of the day, when I take it off, I just eat my face. But it's quite versatile, that is, as well, isn't it?
I'm interested to hear you say that. Do you know where it comes from?
It's part of an animal, isn't it?
Yeah.
And on that note, thank you for your question. Very good.
Thank you.
Let's move up to, where's Josh? Yes, Josh.
I have Victoria from Orlando.
Hey, Victoria. What's your question?
Okay, first I just want to say real quick, I love Life is Too Short. I wish it was still a series. So my question to you, Warwick, is out of all the characters you portrayed wearing special effects makeup, which was your favorite?
Good question. That's very interesting. I mean, I love Wicked Ewok, even though that wasn't entirely a special effects makeup. It was a slip over head, and it was something that Nick and his team had a hand in once again. So yeah, he's very dear to me, that character. Very, very simple to get ready. Literally, it was pop in the costume on 5 minutes, the head would go on just before we filmed, and away we go. But what's fascinating about that, if you look at that film again, is that that face didn't move, it was inanimate. And I don't think nowadays you'd think of putting, you know, quite a central character that had quite a main scene in the movie and have that with an inanimate face. But fortunately for me, I was able to get my own tongue through between the teeth, which then gave the face a little bit of life. So when you watch the film, that little tongue is actually my tongue. It's not some sort of animatronic tongue, you know, or anything like that. It's my real tongue there. There you go. Thanks for the question.
Yes, thank you. All right, let's move over to Stephen. Where are you, sir? Yes, hello. Who do you have with you?
I have Tiana from Ontario.
Tiana from Ontario. Hello, Tiana.
Hello. You're absolutely magical with all of your effects. They're super impressive and a huge portion of what brought us all here. What I was really wondering is, with all of the work that goes into the animatronics and prop work, what exactly was the most surprising scene to actually see and watch on the big screen once everything came together?
Great question.
Wow, that's good, isn't it, Nick? So, out of all the things you created, what were you surprised about seeing? What were you most proud of, I guess?
Well, there's always stage one, which is going, oh, it worked. Nobody died. You know, things like that. I think there are times when you see something and it sort of transcends. You know what it is. You might look at it and think, oh, isn't that great? You know, I believe in it. I'm sort of at the same time, I'm looking for little things that's going wrong or little movements that mean somebody round the back of the set has just passed out or something. But I would say my favourites out of the Harry Potter series, I loved Aragog because it actually had the creep a spider has. I was delighted with Aragog. I loved building a fire-breathing dragon, which we had in the forest at night in a real wood. I mean, you barely see it in the movie, but the point was, we actually built a dragon, they put a flamethrower in it, and let me tell you, you haven't had fun until you've done that. And I just stood in a wood in the summer in England with a fire-breathing dragon riding about. I mean, you know, and got paid. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
One of the things I love, and sometimes the most simple effects, I love the frogs in the frog choir. Because they're a brilliant effect. They're literally a puppet sort of stuck on a book, and then some of your team were behind the performers in the choir operating these frog puppets.
Well, you always start out doing something simple. You know, I mean, you don't look at something from the point of view of, and that's just silly. You don't go, how complicated can we make this? Because there's so much more chance of it exploding or breaking or whatever. You don't do that. You sit there and you go, can it be a glove puppet? You know, can I get one of my crew under that table? You know, can I do it with a piece of string?
Well, they were all wearing robes as well, so it's the perfect cover, wasn't it, for the team behind?
No, I love the frogs. I watched them yesterday doing something. It was just brilliant.
All right, great question. Thank you so much. And let's go to Kelly right here in front. Yes, who do you have with you, Kelly?
I have Scott from North Carolina.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, Warwick. Big fan for more years than either one of us want to admit.
Thank you.
Question for you, actually for both of you. My favorite scene in all the movies is the interview/interrogation of Gridlock in Deathly Hallows Part 2. Obviously a pivotal scene, super close up of you. What was that scene like, filming it with Daniel? The interaction between you two was flawless. It was,
thank you.
It was just awesome and bravo, really.
Thank you. Well,
I'd like to hear a little more about that.
Yeah, you. I'm very proud of that scene for two reasons. I actually stepped in and saw it in IMAX 70mm, and hats off to Nick and the team, because the makeup stood up to quite a full-on close-up at that scale brilliantly. So it was amazing to see. It really was. But playing the scene was great. I mean, Dan is a terrific actor as well, and he just. I remember the direction that I was given for the scene was it's a bit like a poker game that we're playing. So neither of us want to show our hand, you know. So the more subtle the whole thing was, the better it was, you know. I wanted the sword. That was the pure focus that I had in that scene, and beyond that in the film, in fact. It was about moving yourself towards that goal, but without letting on that's really what you were after. And yeah, and I'm glad you appreciated it. We worked hard, and it was the first time for me. You know, you think of the goblins, and you see them a lot, but you never really get up close and personal with them. And that was one of the first times we got to know a goblin a little bit more. And you realise you should never trust a goblin, and never a shrill word is spoken, especially when it comes to Warwick.
But it's true. What I would say to add to that is that seeing it in IMAX, I would just be terrified, but because everything we do, we try to do for close-up. You know, I always say to my crew, you know, if they go, "Is that okay?" And I just go, "Okay, if it's 80 feet across in Leicester Square, Royal Command performance, are you still happy?" And if they are, then you go, "That's fine," you know, because you can get it, so it looks really cool. But you never know when that shot's coming, so every single day, for everything, all the time, you're trying to maintain the makeup at that level. Very often, and it's not sharp, you know. You have to do it, otherwise you'll be caught out horribly.
Yeah, I don't think people realise as well, Nick, that that grip of makeup is not one whole piece you kind of push on and glue on. It's made up of different elements that Nick has carefully devised where the joint will be. And I'm thinking back, there would be a joint across the bridge of the nose here, and then the makeup runs under the eyelid there, and then there's a joint that runs across here, which is sometimes when you see prosthetic characters and they wear glasses, that's why, because it hides that line across to there. There's normally a joint that goes around the back of the ear or the front of the ear. Chins are sometimes separate, aren't they?
Yeah.
Here. I can't remember where this bit was broken down around here, but you pick these lines and you use the sculpt as well, don't you? Where there's a crease in the face, you use that to have your joint as well.
You help yourself.
Yeah.
Now, that's all we have time for today, I'm afraid. I'm sorry. But I hope you've heard. Enjoyed learning about the creature in the Harry Potter films.
Yeah, and what it was like to play a goblin. And please do continue your support of the films and everything we're doing. And as I said, if you get a chance to be in London, go check out the studio tour. It's a mine of information. Thank you.
Ladies and